Welcome back to the Good Talk, the show where we discuss what's hot, what's grot, and everything between in the wild world of Warhammer. My name is Adrian. I'm joined, of course, by Brian. And behind the camera today, we have Lindsay.
Hello.
We're excited to be here. It is a massive day for Warhammer 40k. We, of course, recently got new missions. We got 2 new codexes. But today, we are fully arrived into edition 10.5. Massive balanced data slate. We also have lots of points changes and FAQs and a ton of different things. So there's a ton to go over. Of course, this is going to be not a first look, but kind of first impressions. We've done a little bit with this, and we're excited about lots of things. It's a huge sweeping changes. It feels like we've finally arrived at the edition. You know, like we're here. This is the first change where we are seeing kind of quality of life changes, but we're also seeing just kind of general improvements rather than like fixing something that's on fire, right?
Definitely. This definitely feels more refined than it has been previously, which is nice to see. It's very refreshing.
Yeah.
And it's very hopeful going forward for the game, right? Like, it gives me a lot of hope going forward for the game.
Exactly. Yeah. Last couple weeks, we of course had the new missions, and we had our list of grudges. Today, less so actually.
Yeah.
I'd say general reception for us is positive. We're excited for these changes. We feel like good quality of life changes, good adjustments, and they really get into the nitty-gritty on factions that needed help. So we're going to be going through all of that stuff, kind of an overview of the changes, what you need to know, especially as pertains to your faction. We're going to focus on the balanced data slate changes. There are a few fundamental FAQs and a few things that are worth also discussing. But of course, as always, this is a live discussion, so thank you for joining us live. If you have any questions, comments, let us know right now. We're going to be here for about the next 45 minutes before we go play the brand new rules. Newly updated Adeptus Mechanicus versus newly updated Tyranids.
I'm so excited for the new Tyranids.
It's going to be
awesome.
awesome.
It's going to be so cool.
So many tweaks, right?
And it's like the small stuff, but they all add up, and it makes like a really big impact.
Exactly. And today we kind of have a little sampler where we're trying basically as many changes as possible for both of those armies. Cool. Well, with that, let's just get on into it, and we're going to go ahead and pull up the balanced data slate itself. Here we are. Of course, this is on Warhammer Community. If you're not familiar, there is a document that you can download with all of these changes. So we're going to go right on through it. So first of all, core rules changes, and a lot of these have to do with stratagems and stratagem refunds. So first, you can see on the left, modifying a stratagem CP cost. Previously, they had, this was very impactful in the early days. They changed it so that any ability that lets you modify the cost of a stratagem can only be done on a battle tactic. That was kind of a half measure. I think it was okay, but not perfect. And as the codex is kind of released, you could see the impact of that more and more, right? Just talk to the Custodes players who have like no battle tactics. Now, they've changed it so that that works on any category of stratagem, but it only reduces the cost by 1. At the end of the day, this basically means it works on all your stratagems. There are a few 2-costers that will just go down to 1, but I think it's still a great deal, honestly.
Yeah, I like the idea that your strats will always be affected by this thing. Because like you were saying, like there's some codexes that just don't have battle tactics. Or there's one, and it's just like not really worth even using ever. So this just makes it feel much better for everybody that has these types of abilities in their army.
Yeah, it definitely, and it limits the potential abuse. I think some of the problematic ones are frankly gone. We don't need to worry about those anymore. A lot of the strats have been just kind of changed or adjusted. We're talking about early days, like GSC and Eldar look completely different now anyway, so there's no need to have that restriction, right? I will mention the stratagems that can be used more than once per phase / turn. I want to talk about that before we talk about Vex, because this is also related. Any strats that let you, or any abilities that let you use a strat twice in a phase, such as Speed Spring Captains, basically don't work anymore. So that is interesting. I think it's kind of a 1-2 punch where they're saying, okay, they're going to be free, but you can't double up on these strats anymore. And they really want you to not be able to have just like a singular plan, right? Like I'm just going to charge in, I'm going to do like double lance here and here, looking at you, Melody, things like that. And obviously, while as a player, I'm a little bit sad to not be able to kind of have that really nicely honed machine. I think it's a totally fair call, just kind of reducing that space to kind of avoid potential issues, I guess I'll say.
There's a thing for if it's called out specifically by name, right? For the stratagems.
Exactly, yeah. So, like Overwatch, Heroic Convention, Grenade is a big one. Speaking of which, there are some changes to Grenade, but those all when they get called out specifically. So like the Reductus Saboteur, the grenade guy from Death Guard, all get changed.
Yep.
I guess might as well talk about grenades since we're here. Now, I believe the way it's written is you cannot fall back and throw grenades anymore. It was always a little weird, a little wacky.
Because it's in the shooting phase, but it's not a shooting attack. You don't have to be eligible to... You do have to be eligible to shoot. You just can't have
need to have been eligible. Right, that's what it is.
Yeah, you just could not have shot.
Weird like that.
And then you get to throw grenades, and then you get to shoot afterwards. But now you just can't fall back.
I will say I do appreciate the article that Warhammer community put out where they kind of hit a few of these and give some rationale. Much appreciated, where they're like, yeah, we want grenades to be like something that you throw in as you're going into combat, right? Yeah. It's before you shoot, it's before you charge, and running back and throwing grenades wasn't really something that they wanted us to do. So, you know, fair, whatever. So that's grenades, that's stratagems there. Secondly, vects, which is kind of a colloquial term we refer to, that we use to refer to abilities that increase the cost of your stratagems for the rest of the game. We saw the first change of this in the new cipher, and we all complained about how terrible it was. Basically, the new cipher says if you're within 12 of him, it just increases the cost of your stratagems by 1. Well, as much as we didn't like that because it was weaker than everyone else's, now everyone's is the
norm.
Same. Yeah. So if you have that ability, CPs just stratagems cost 1 more when you're within 12. Yeah. It's weird. I mean, it's different, I guess.
It's different, right? It's something we have to get used to, and I have to imagine we will see a lot less of those types of characters, like the Custodes, for example.
Yeah.
That would just sit back in a board edge, wait for, like deploy teleporters or whatever the case is, and just use that ability whenever they need it.
Yeah.
Now you have to be more aggressive with those characters, which means they have the potential to die.
Yeah, you're usually moving within your lone op range so you can get killed.
Right.
I think it does align with the kind of design values we've seen from the studio in the last mission update, where they got rid of a lot of the secondaries that require you to like wait in the battlefield for a certain spot at a certain time with multiple units. They made the message clear they don't want that. They want us to be fighting, which I think most players will appreciate. If you're not me, I like standing in places.
Yeah, well, look, I appreciate not having to interact with your opponent, but I do agree that having a more interactive game is just better.
Yeah, exactly. So it forces us to be more aggressive with that. So that's Vex, that's stratagems. Stratagems that prevent units from being targeted. So speaking of which, this is basically any stratagem that gives you lone operative, effectively, is now going to make you untargetable beyond 18 rather than 12. Yep. Checks out, again, increasing interactivity, uninteractability, you know what I'm trying to say? Uninteractability, and makes people play more aggressively. So it's a fine change, you know? And stratagems that add new units to your army, this is now once per game. So guard players, I think, are probably potentially the biggest hit by this, where they'd be recycling like Kazarkin. Oh, the Kroot, not the Kroot!
Poor Kroot.
Poor Kroot. Yeah, this change, I'm not like, I don't hate it, I don't love it.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent to it, to be honest. Like, because oftentimes, like, you would use this strat a couple of times, but you're not going to use it every turn.
Right.
So, like, you might use it one less time.
In a vacuum, I understand this change, but in reality, I don't really remember people using this a ton in the first place. Definitely. So, a little bit odd.
The only thing I can imagine that used it consistently, like every turn, was probably the Kroot.
Yeah, yeah, their army's all about it.
That's like the only strat really that they had.
In which case, come on, James, just let them have it. It's fine.
Make an exception. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares.
So that's the core balance Dataslate changes. Now remember, these are changes that they could revert or adjust in the future. The grenade change is part of an actual FAQ to the game. There's another one worth mentioning, which is tank shock, and this is one of my few gripes with it. Basically, they did not like the fact that walkers, they wanted tank shock to be literally, you have a tank and you run it in and it kind of ramps people in a way that like normally they wouldn't be a combat unit. They didn't appreciate the fact that you had dreadnoughts and walkers that would run in, have a super high strength weapon, and basically just use it to do even more damage.
Yeah, just a dunk on units.
Right. I can appreciate that. I just don't agree with the way that they changed it. What they did was they said, okay, instead of tank shock being based off your strength, it's going to be based off of your toughness. Yeah. My issue is I'm an orc player. And you have things like the Wrecking Ball, which is a horrible weapon, but it's a high strength.
Right.
And it was this kind of perfect design space to be like, it's basically just for tank shock. So in my personal opinion, I wish they had just, if you're worried about walkers, you literally call them out. Make it not work for walkers.
Yeah.
Make it only work for other people. So I don't agree with that change.
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure that I'm a fan of it either, to be honest. I like the idea of that tanks get to do tank things, and that including walkers, right? Like, they should be able to just walk into infantry and like walk over infantry.
Yeah.
You know, and step on them and crunch them as they walk. Like a dreadnought walking into grots.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, was it so crazy?
It's not that big of a deal to me. But, you know, unfortunately, it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah. Not the end of the world.
Again, it's like we were saying, it's different. So you just have to get used to it. It's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily like a worse change. It's just different.
It's just different. And no double Brutalis Dreadnought mortal wounds, which... Sorry, Melody. This is not your day. Sorry.
That poor Brutalis. Just can't catch a break.
Yeah. Barry!
Yeah, there's a poor Barry in chat.
Poor Barry.
Melody, yeah.
How is chat doing?
Chat's having a good time. There's, you know, I think there's good feelings towards the data slate right now, and just a lot of people discussing the different changes, what they're excited for, you know, things that they're kind of bummed out about. But it's a good vibe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a big day, big changes for everyone. I wanted to just we actually do have the article pulled up. Lindsay, can we take a look at that real quick?
Was it?
It's actually gonna be the left-handmost one, and then go to the Meta Watch one on the right. And then I just feel like I'm missing some core thing. So go ahead and let's scroll down. Keep going. Stratagems. We talked about tank shock. Pause there. We talked about lone op. That's fine. Movement. We can scroll down to movement here. So movement, the pivoting is hard. And I think this is a good change for accessibility. Basically, everyone was always moving their vehicles wrong all the time. Frankly, mostly to their advantage, but that's neither here nor there. So instead now, if you are a monster vehicle, it costs you 2 inches to pivot any amount. You can do a full 360 turn, but you wouldn't, but you could, and it'll cost you just 2 inches no matter how big you are. Obviously, this is better for some vehicles than others, but just simplifies things, makes it less fiddly. And if you're not a monster vehicle, pivots are free, which can give you extra line of sight, but I'm totally on board because it kind of gets rid of a little bit of like the fiddliness, and you can make your models look cool and actually face without changing the game.
Play the game a little more thematic.
Yeah.
Because like you want your guy to face the dude he's about to fight,
right.
When in reality, or previous iteration of this rule, you had to actually like pay the movement technically. But oftentimes it was just like, well, I know I can't do this, but I'm just going to do it. If you agree with it, we're going to face each other, right?
Exactly. Because you would face one direction because you're hiding your like sword that's sticking out. But then like you go in and it just looks dumb.
So. No, I think this is, I mean, it's definitely a good change. I think it's still a little clunky to me. I think it's a step in the right direction for sure. But again, because like what you were saying, like unless you're like an actual square, like a perfect square. You gain a lot of movement by just rotating 2 inches on some of these larger vehicles, like a knight. Pivoting and only spending 2 inches is much more impactful than like, I don't know, a rhino or something, right? Because you gain a lot of distance and you can get a lot of line of sight off.
Exactly.
So I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it could still use a little bit of work, in my opinion. But I'm happy to see that they're trying to address it.
Exactly. One trend which I think is in the data slate, but I just want to mention I don't love, is a lot of these big walkers and vehicles and super heavies that can go over terrain that's 4 inches or tall. You can do it, but after you do so, you roll a dice, on a 1, you get battle shocked. Like they trip or something. And I'm like, again, I don't think knights are a problem right now. Like this is not the thing we need to be dealing with. So.
And also,
the
amount of 4-inch terrain isn't super common.
No,
like
it's
even
not.
GW's terrain is 5 inches. To like the first level.
That's true. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like they're not really
it's
walking
like
over
crates,
buildings.
I guess. It's like it's awkward. And when you are having to like navigate between like tight terrain, so like for example frontline setups, the 2-inch pivot actually is going to be very harsh because it's every pivot, no matter how small, right? So it's gonna be a weird time to be playing knights, I think. Anyways, moving along, I think I just want to cover all these. These are kind of core changes, and then we'll go back to the balance state that gets a bit more nitty-gritty into factions. So we can scroll down just a bit here, Lindsay. Mortals and devastating wounds.
Oh, they're back, baby.
Well, hold on, I was gonna
Kind
say the headline is mortals are back, but with a twist. Basically, devastating does do mortals now, but they don't carry over. So all you Custodes players, all calm down. Atesh, you calm down, it's fine. And I think this change is fine. It's fine.
The biggest thing that it gives is if you have a Field of Pain against mortal wounds, right? It lets you use that against devastating wounds. I think that this is just like a confusing change. If they wanted to make it so that you could use your Field of Pains against dev wounds, they should have just put that in there. Like if you have a Fiona Pain, it against mortal wounds specifically, it also works against dev wounds. Because when you say that dev wounds are also mortals,
but they're not,
but they don't roll over, so now they're actually not mortal wounds.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is there, and I agree with the sentiment, but the way that they did it is not correct in my opinion. They should have just made it. If you have a Fiona Pain against mortals, you also get it against dev.
Yeah. I think it's totally fair.
But
yeah, I totally agree. So that's mortals, and then we can scroll down a bit. We will talk about AdMech once we get to the balanced data slate. We'll talk about Thousand Suns. We'll talk about Dark Angels. We'll definitely talk about orcs. I know. Hey, Tyranids, yeah.
Custodes,
definitely. Demons, points. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's kind of the core changes. There might be a couple things. Let us know in chat. But we can hop back over to the balanced data slate now. All right. So let's go down to the next page where we're going to get a bit more nitty-gritty with units and things. So Sisters, no faction changes, but I guess we can mention right now, they get a lot of points hikes.
Yeah,
a lot.
A lot of points hikes.
I'm proud of GW because I was the first to say I don't think that they're going to have the foresight to change the points after releasing this incredibly powerful codex.
Yeah.
And they did, so good job.
Yeah.
That's
I was very concerned when I got my little hands on the codex.
Yeah.
As I'm sure was everybody else that saw all of the rules that were leaked or whatever the case.
Oh yeah. Sky's falling. New Eldar is here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to say that they have sufficiently gotten their points increased. Is it going to be enough? I hope so.
Right.
We'll have to play it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I am hopeful that they were able to put out a fire before it even started.
Exactly. I think first glance, I like it as well. It's a lot. It's like 15, 20, sometimes there's 30, 40 points increases on units. So I think it's good. We'll have to play it, obviously.
Obviously we'll have to test it out because it also could have gone like too far in one direction, like the other direction. I don't think that's the case, but it is possible. So again, we'll just have to play, and as we play as a community, we'll figure it out together.
Yeah. But let us know, of course, in chat.
Yeah. Real quick, we just had a super chat come in that talks about pivoting.
Sure.
It's from Fate Stay Dreamer. Thank you so much, Fate Stay, for the super chat. And they say, hey, you got pivot and Titanic a bit wrong. Once you pivot once, that is the only penalty. All other pivot cost you additional movement. Also, you can only take BS when passing through terrain larger than 4.
Correct. Yeah. So that's what we said with the terrain. Oh, they're saying so you pay for one pivot?
You pay for one pivot and the rest are free, which we knew. But as soon as you pivot any amount, you take the penalty for moving.
Yes.
For
sorry.
Is what we were saying.
Yeah.
So like even if you need to squeeze through like a tiny little half inch or whatever, it doesn't matter. You got to spend the 2, and that's kind of what we're
with the oval base, it can be awkward.
Yeah.
But appreciate the help, honestly. And if we have any timely super chats, feel free to interrupt us, Lindsay.
Yeah, sounds good.
There's so much to go through.
Yeah.
So cool. So let's go back up a bit. So again, Sisters, no balanced data slate changes, but lots of points. Custodes, which are playing on Saturday. We've got, Lindsay.
They're above the
oh my gosh. I for some reason, my whole brain was thinking that this whole page was Sisters.
Oh, yeah, no worries. You're good.
I didn't see the Sisters. None.
Yeah. You're like, whatever. No changes are changes.
There we go.
I love it. Custodes. So we are playing these Saturday. It's going to be a rematch, grudge match between Custodes and Orcs. So 2 changes. One, actually, chat, you're going to have to help me out on this one. I meant to look this up. The shield host is a minor change. It's something about the bullet points. So, my apologies. Let me know, chat, what that changes.
I'm not going to lie to you. When we first looked over this, this didn't exist. The Martial Mastery detachment rule, like, I read it and I was like, I don't know what it means. And then I completely brain dumped it because the second one, I was like, this is crazy.
This is the one we want to talk about. The Orc Champions. This is the character-specific faction. Character-specific faction, I guess. And before, it was basically pick a unit, an oath target, and you get +1 to wound against it with your character models.
Yes.
Which is like a real head-scratcher. But now they changed it to character units.
Which is absurdly good. It is so strong. Just pick a unit, get +1 to wound with your character units, which is every unit in your army, essentially.
It flips the detachment on its head, right? Before it was like, well, how do we fit in as many lone characters as possible? But now it's, you want giant bricks with a character attached.
Yeah, which you were probably already taking in your wardens, and like,
it's kind of back to
wardens
the
and guard,
right?
whatever, right? Like, you're kind of playing the same game that you were playing before the codex came out, which is
I think it's
way better.
I think it's very strong now. Very, very interesting. So we have that. We have the devastating change, which does help with some of the abilities. They have protection against mortal wounds. And points change wise, I believe it was just Forge World points changes.
Yeah, it was all the Forge World. Not all of it, but a lot of the stuff that got changes. Actually, everything that got changes was Forge World, but not all the Forge World stuff was changed.
Exactly, yeah. So the one that people are kind of a buzz about is, of course, Vanatari dropped a ton of points.
Yes, they dropped a significant, like 35 points.
Wild.
Is insane.
For 3. They were way too much.
They were 200 points for 3, and now they're 165.
Yeah, we got to convince Berger. He's a little uncertain. And I will say, to his credit, they can't attach characters, so they're not necessarily the Auric Champions unit. But, like...
Well, maybe they're good for Shield Host.
Very interesting.
Depending on what those bullet points say.
Yeah, any word from chat on
Yeah,
that change?
So thank you, Willow, for laying it out. They say, you now pick 1 + 1 AP. You now pick +1 AP or crits on 5s every turn instead of getting both once.
So much better. Yes.
Okay.
I love it. Okay. Cool. That's great.
Yeah.
The one, basically a lame wah was horrible.
But
cool.
now you pick one every turn, so you always get to do something. That feels much better.
So much better.
Yeah.
So love these changes. I'm excited for Custodes players. They've been very sad. So I think...
I will say, though, they didn't have to wait too long, which is nice. Like, it's
That is
good
nice.
to see that as much as you had to suffer for, like, a month, it was only a month.
Look, you're not the AdMech players.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's take a look at Adeptus Mechanicus.
There's so much here.
Big changes.
Jeez.
So at a high level, most of these changes are weapon profile changes. So you can look that up for yourself. They're all increases. Couple highlights. The Chicken Walker las cannons are now 2 shots instead of just being single shot twin linked, which is way better. You have the same. On average, it'll be the same, but the potential is much higher.
Yeah, most of the stuff got more shots.
Yeah. So the Dunecrawler we're playing today had its, the heavy phosphor blaster tripled the shots. It went from its bottom right here, went from 4 shots, 12. AP 1/2 damage to 12. So we're playing that today. It's going to be fun.
But, okay.
Triple the shots.
12 attacks is a lot, but like 4 at that same profile?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any... That's such a bad gun.
It was just an absolute
Give it to
joke.
any army, and every army would be like, even Orcs would be like, I hate this gun. I don't want it. Like, I don't care that it hits on 4s. I don't want it.
Exactly.
It's terrible. I would rather just have, like, heavy stubbers or something. Like, it's...
honestly, and you're paying for that big chassis.
Yeah,
and it's a beautiful model, so I'm really excited.
It's really cool.
So, weapon changes, cool. The big change, of course, happens with the Doctrina Imperatives.
Yeah.
A couple things. I'd say overall, this will also affect most of your priest units. So the priests, the dominuses, all that stuff, which is very exciting. It doesn't affect the Castellan robots still, and I think that's mostly due to the fact that there's a detachment that does that.
Yeah.
And so they
don't want to counter... Like, they're not going to give you something for them to make the detachment worthless and not playable.
They gave as much as they could without changing that detachment.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Here's the way it works. And it's kind of like what people were speculating they might do. Basically, the doctrines before, you have an offensive one, you have a defensive one. They're always tied to the deployment zones, right? It was like the defensive one, you had to be at least touching your deployment zone. The offensive one had to be against enemy units touching their deployment zone. They have basically made it board-wide, and instead it's reliant on where you are in relationship to your battle line, which is a theme we already see in this book, and their battle line are fantastic. So this is great. So now the Protector, which is the defensive one, all your weapons have heavy, cool. All your ballistic skills are improved by 1, amazing. So that'll also stack with heavy. Heavy by itself was like very niche, and
because then you can't move, right?
And you have
to play Warhammer, you got to move.
What?
Turns out,
shocking, right? And then if you are within 6 inches of the battle line, or you are battle line, you're gonna be -1 to hit in a melee, I believe. No, that's just -1 to hit.
-1 to hit, yeah.
Right. It's the...
each time a melee attack.
It is melee, okay.
Yeah,
-1 to hit in melee.
Yeah, that's literally the first 4 words.
There it is, melee attack.
Yep.
All right, cool. So that's that one. The offensive one, you get Assault. You get +1 weapon skill, and this kind of harkens back to the way it's been historically. And if you're within 6 of a battle line, +1 AP.
That is, I think, a massive.
Massive. And that's shooting as well.
Yeah.
+1 AP Oh my gosh, do you know how many shots Vanguard put out?
That's so much.
Oh, it's awesome. So these are huge improvements, massive improvements. And I think it's a good change. Like there was speculation of like, okay, make the doctrines board wide. Well, Armor Contempt board wide is a little ridiculous. So they made it basically board wide, put a condition on it, which is fine. And they also changed Armor Contempt to the -1 to hit, which is more reasonable.
Yeah.
So these are amazing changes. Of course, points increases do come with that. So that whole AdMech section is all red, which is good. I don't want this to be a horde army. So I'm very excited. There's so much to dig into with this faction.
And it's one of those things like this change doesn't necessarily seem like that massive of a change. I mean, it is. It's a big change.
It's a subtle thing.
It's again, it's a subtle thing. But when you stack that with all of the data sheet changes for the weapons, and then also like the points increases as well, it just changes the way that the army plays in like a big way.
Yeah.
Which is again exciting. It's refreshing, and it kind of it's again just exciting to if you play the army to want to get back into playing the army.
Exactly. So these are the balanced data slate changes, not like FAQ, but they're pretty canon at this point. So that's AdMech. Let's take a look at what we have next.
Oh, I cry.
Oh no! All right. Well, we can be pretty quick here because it's already 11:30. Jeez.
Oh no.
Eldar continue to not get love. In fact, they get hate.
They got worse.
Yeah.
Again, they got points increases, and then there's the indirect change that we didn't talk about.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
So indirect. It's largely the same except for one massive change, which is you can no longer hit on better than a 4. So an unmodified hit roll of 1 to 3 always fails. So Eldar, the reason it applies to Eldar is because obviously they have the D cannons, they have like the Dark Reapers and stuff. Will never hit on better than a 4, which hurts real bad.
That's tough.
And then also they got the points increases. But I'm not going to talk about that too much because I've talked about it enough in various other ways. But this also impacts things like Guard. Right, in like a much larger way.
Poor Guard.
Yeah.
You know, they saw some points decreases in things like Catterkin, and they're indirect in response to this. They are really hit the worst because they were the ones that were hitting on 2s, indirect.
Yeah.
Regardless of how we feel, like we think indirect is bad for the game, and certainly 2+ is bad for the game. But like, come on, like you guys gave them the indirect attachment. Like this sucks for Guard. There's no other way to say that. So sad for Eldari. Their codex can't come soon enough to just rewrite everything.
They need to rewrite everything.
Yeah. But I have hope, given the newer codexes and how they've rewritten things. So all these changes are kind of carries over. Wraith Guard, you know, definitely nerfed. The Night Spinner, still that horizontal move.
Yeah. It's like minor changes. It's not, like the Incarnate probably was, it's once in each of your turns now. It used to be once in each of your phases. So again, a big nerf.
Well, it used to be each player, right? It was any turn?
So when it first started, it was any phase as many times as you want, and then it became only on your turn.
Right.
Every phase, but now it's in your turn once per turn, which is fine. That's not a big deal. That's how it should have been to begin with, to be honest.
Yeah. Very potentially problematic unit already. So that's Eldar. Moving right along, let's see what's at the top here.
Agents of the Imperium.
Oh yeah, this is the same, basically just adjustments to the exaction squad so you don't spam out the little 5-man. So you need 10 of them. Yeah, that's basically it. Guard, as we mentioned, probably the biggest change is the change to indirect. This is the same changes from before to make orders actually work. So that's you just do them when you enter the battlefield, whether you're coming from reserves or on a transport. Makes sense. This next change I actually like, combined regiment detachment. This is the change to born soldiers, which was basically if you remain stationary, you have lethal hits. Again, moving is key to Warhammer. This also doesn't work in your opponent's turn. So what they did instead, I thought was a good change. Basically, they said you have your non-monsters and vehicles have lethal against non-monsters and vehicles, and your monsters and vehicles have lethal against monsters and vehicles. Sorry, squadron. So I think it's a nice change. Lethal is awesome, and you're going to be specialized at dealing with the things that you're supposed to be dealing with. So regiment, lethal against non-monsters and vehicles. Squadron, lethal against monsters and vehicles. Checks out. I think it's a good change, and it will work in both turns.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because it always feels bad when you roll for half of a battle round, you know?
It's so, it's awkward,
It's so
and
weird.
then if you don't read the rules carefully,
it's super easy just to get it wrong on accident.
you could play it in your turn, and it's like, I totally understand that mistake. Yeah. That's Guard. Templars, I don't think this is a change.
No.
Yeah, this is just transport changes. They do get some slight points adjustments. I will say they definitely are going after some of the more abusive Space Marine vehicles still. Gladiators, Lancers.
Redeemers.
Redeemers, finally!
Yep.
Hallelujah.
Redeemers are up 20 or 25 points.
Yeah, they're still great.
Probably not enough.
They're still less than 300. So.
Still less than 300.
Blood Angels, again, same changes from before. So on the turn they charge, you get +2 strength, +1 attack. Great adjustment from the last balanced data slate. And they have no points changes in the Blood Angel rules.
Yeah. All the generic Space Marine stuff is what got hit, essentially.
And mostly vehicles at that.
Yeah.
Chaos Knights, they basically get the new adjustments to super heavy walkers. So you can see there's the battle shock if they're going over things that are 4 or more. And then you can move within engagement range, but you can't end within engagement range. So, you know, they don't love the battle shock, but that's what it is.
Ooh, this is a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Chaos Space Marines, the Warp Talons were probably the most problematic unit that has come out in a very long time. So they had an ability where as long as they charged and they're no longer in combat, they could just pick themselves up off the table. And so there was an interaction with one of the detachments where you can just fall back from combat. So they didn't need to kill anything. Because normally, obviously, the rule would be like, you charge and you have to kill it in order to do the thing.
Right.
There's a detachment where you just have to charge, now you're able to fall back and you can go up, right? Now, you have to actually kill the thing that you were in combat with, which is fine. I like this change.
Yeah, this is a great change. It makes sense.
It's also accompanied by a pretty hefty points increase on the unit.
Oh my God, they went up so much.
So this is a little bit of probably one step too far in the other direction.
I'm so curious.
Because not only did they get a massive points increase, but they also got the nerf to the rule that made them warrant the points increase in the first place.
Right, right.
So like a little points increase I think is fine. But I don't know about as much as they got.
It's like they went up like 25 points, I think, for 5.
Yeah.
It's like 270 for 10 of them.
Yeah, that's insane.
But they were too good before.
They were way too good.
They were way too good.
But they also just didn't really kill anything.
Oh, I don't know.
Like they killed small stuff, but they didn't like kill bricks of things. You know, you're not going to go into Terminators and expect to kill 5 Terminators.
No.
You know what I mean? Like you're not even going to kill you're not going to kill 5 Terminators. Like it just probably wouldn't happen, right?
I think
through armor contempt and all the other stuff, like it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So like they had a very specific thing that they wanted to go for.
Yeah.
That way they could use the ability, or they're playing that detachment just to be annoying. To like, oh, I'm going to charge you. That way next turn I can get behind you with the rapid ingress and then walk, right?
Exactly.
So they were just like an annoying unit. I don't know that they did a ton of damage. I mean, they had potential, of course, with the reroll wounds. There's always potential.
I will take my 270-point Warp Talons against you, and we'll see how this goes.
These Warp Talons? Yeah, I'll let you take these.
I'll take these. I'll do it. I'll still rock my 20.
I just can't play Eldar. Because then they actually just kill
everything.
Then
it's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that is one thing I was saying is it kind of reinforces the need sometimes for these bigger squads rather than 5-mans, which is fair enough. Fair enough. The 5-mans though could work against Eldar.
5-man.
3x5 is perfect.
A 2-man could work against Eldar.
Yeah, I know, it's so crazy. So Chaos Space Marines, that's the only balanced data slate change, but they also did see points increases. Yeah. That's the harshest. There are lots of amazing units like Venom Crawlers, Legionnaires. I think Havocs, oddly enough, saw an increase. Yep. But a lot of the classic units did see increases. It's not a ton. It's like 5 to 10 points.
Yeah.
Totally reasonable. They were probably a little too cheap. Vindicators did go up, which is good because they were also too cheap. Yep. But again, like 5, 10 points. So I think it's fine. Yeah. Warp Town's really the biggest change. Yeah. So excited for the faction. Chaos Demons got some love, which I'm very, very excited for. There's a lot of, they kind of rewrite a lot of rules here at a high level. And this is where they also gave some commentary in the article, which I appreciate. At a high level, basically, your greater demons now put out an aura of Shadow of Chaos, just like Be'lakor did. That's basically all it is, right? So you get all the benefits therein. You can have the shorter deep strike, you have the -1 leadership, D3 mortal wounds. It's just nice because you're not reliant on Be'lakor as much. You're not reliant on holding objectives. Yeah. Like as they say in the article, these are chaos demons. They're not. They shouldn't be about like holding objectives. Yeah. So
I think my favorite part of this change is the fact that you're no longer required to take Be'lakor.
Right.
Because some people just don't want to take Be'lakor.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And in some formats, it's like almost possible.
Yeah. But now you actually have the ability to just omit Be'lakor from the list and take the greater demon. If you want to do an all-core army, you can do an all-core army. If you want to do all Tzeentch, you can do all Tzeentch, and so on and so forth. So it just makes it, you can make it an army more unique to yourself, right? And I like that a lot.
Yeah. I think these are great changes and come with some points reductions as well. So very, very excited for demons moving forward. Just new possibilities. Of course, they did retain the Demonic Pact rule so that you can't have more non-battle line of a god than you have battle line when you're playing them as allies. So checks out. So yeah, just a lot of words under demons to say the same thing.
Dark Angels, I think, isn't that?
Yeah, I think Dark Angels probably.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Dark Angels got some love. They were definitely one of the worst factions, especially for space, even for Space Marines, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So their old attachment rule was basically if you get battle shocked, you maintain OC1, which like while it is useful, it's not something you want to have as your core rule. Like you're just hopefully I get battle shocked, so I
get to use my cool thing.
Yeah,
it's actually not that cool, and you also still have to be battle shocked, which means no strats.
Right, exactly.
So it's like,
yeah.
Okay, it's like a half measure. It feels like
precisely. So instead, they've changed it so that in your command phase, you pick one of your units, and they get +1 OC. Awesome.
That's
I love
amazing.
it. That's great for the narrative, much more useful for the game. And then their Inner Circle Task Force, which is based around their Deathwing Knights and things like that, also got a very tasty change. Basically, you, in your movement phase, you pick one of 2 abilities. Can we scroll down just a little bit, Lindsay? Yeah. So we pick either an objective you don't control, or I believe all the objectives. Sorry, you pick one you hold, or all the ones you don't hold. Yeah. And then those are your vowed objectives. Yeah, that's the big change. So while one of the enemy units on a vowed objective, +1 to wound with your Deathwing infantry units.
It's so good.
It's awesome.
It's so good.
Way more flexible, way more applicable.
Yeah. And I like the stipulation where it's you pick one that you control, or you can choose any number that you don't control, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it lets you play much more flexibly, like because if it was just one or the other, then again you're not getting as much value out of it, and then it goes back to the whole like, well, I don't get to use my rule as as often as I should. Right?
And it gets a bit away from the like, well, we're Space Marines, so we kill one thing really good each turn. You still have Oath, but like you also get this, which is a bit more flexible.
Yeah.
And it also kind of encourages you to kind of spread out rather than be like, here's my one massive brick that will just kill something each turn.
Yeah. Which I guess you still could do.
You could definitely do that.
If you really wanted to, because
you
you could just select the objective that you're standing on and be like, come take it from me.
Exactly.
But, this encourages other gameplays.
Right,
like, styles.
So then we have some data sheet changes, which I like. I think you'll enjoy them too, Brian. Deathwing Knights, the Maces of Absolution regained their anti-monster, anti-vehicle. They were atrociously powerful before the Codex. Got hit a little bit too hard. Strength 6. Come on, nobody should. What are you talking about? So now they also have anti-monster vehicle 4+, which is great. And the power weapon in the squad gets extra damage, so it's damage 2. Great changes. Love to see it.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see what we've got
Guard?
next. Yes. Oh, and then the sword Inner Circle Companions. Their swords are finally AP2, like a power sword. Great change.
They were so bad.
So bad.
Because like they have power swords.
I know.
That are just worse in every way.
Right? And they're so cool. We got an unopened box right there.
Well, you know why it was unopened.
I know. It's such a shame. Death Guard, these are largely the same. In fact, this might be all the same. So the contagion adjustments looking fantastic. And then, of course, they do have the call out for grenades. Death Guard, they did go after some of the key units, such as the Biologist Putrefier, the Noxious Blightbringer, I believe, which, in my amateur opinion, I think Death Guard should all be about Plague Marines and Rhinos and these characters. And they definitely went after them. Again, not huge changes, but enough that like if you're trying to spam them out across the board, you're really going to feel that. So there's also a nerf, which I'm a fan of, which is the indirect nerf. Plague Burst Crawlers, hit on 3s. You could take Morty to ignore modifiers. And what this meant was people would often take Mortarion as like a babysitter for half the game for these tanks. I hated that. Nothing against the players, but like that sucks. That sucks. And now, there's not much reason to do that because you're hitting on 4s anyways.
You'll only ever hit on 4s.
There you go.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's Death Guard. Overall, I think they'll be still quite strong in the new mission packs. Death Watch, to my knowledge, nothing new. This is just a bunch of changes. Still a very bad faction. Hopefully we missed something. And the Drukhari, nothing new here.
Nothing new,
This is the changes from Power from Pain. Gene Stiller Colts, no rule changes, but lots of points decreases.
I like that. None.
None. Nothing to say here. Right? I hope it's enough. I'm slightly skeptical, but there are certainly reductions. Remember also, folks, when you look at the Sisters and the Gene Stiller Cult points adjustments, those are all compared to the codexes. So when Aberrants say no change, do they actually go up in the codex? When something says no change, it means no change from the codex. So it actually might be adjusted from what you're currently playing. So keep in mind.
I think Grey Knights are largely the same. The Vortex Doom is just you can't target lone up.
Yeah, which is great.
Fine.
Yeah.
And then this is all the same stuff. Ignores cover on the heavy side cannons. Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's all the same.
That takes us, I believe, up to the next page, which is Knights. Same thing as before. They retconned their armory rule and pretended like they meant this all along. Bond's mill abilities only apply to armorers. Super heavy walker change, which we don't love. Let's keep going down. CP changes. Votan, I believe, is the same as well. Oh, sorry, they increased the number of units you can pick on Onslaught, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's so many units. Just
and they
crazy.
had no points changes, I don't think.
Interesting.
I think they had no points changes.
Wild. Hypercrypt Legion, you cannot pick Cosmic Precision on monster units, aka Catan. Fine, whatever. Orcs.
There's a lot to unpack here. Before you say anything.
Okay.
You might hate what I'm about to say. I am so happy that this was addressed and fixed as quickly as it was.
No, I'm on board.
But not just the Bully Boys, but also the Green Tide.
The Green Tide was the next
way
big
more egregious, I think, than Bully Boys.
Bully Boys was like the obvious thing, and Green Tide was like that was the next thing coming down the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, Green Tide now, you only get your 5-up invuln save if you have a boy squad of 10 or more, which kind of fits the theme. You also lose the reroll save rolls of 1, which bogged the game down.
So good.
It was strong. It was done with Mega Knobs. Fine. Tide of Muscle strat, which was the +1 to charge equal to the current battle round, was clearly not correct.
Not thought of.
So now it's +1 to charge, and if you have 10 or more models, reroll the charge. Cool.
Which is cool. The reroll, in addition to the +1, is...
It's important.
It's important.
So otherwise, you might as well be spending a CP.
Yeah, exactly. But the +1, right, is...
That's the reason you're taking it.
Yeah.
So, obviously a nerf, but I think these are warranted. And then Go Get 'em, which is the Blood Surge strat, instead of going to a flat 6, is now you can reroll if you have 10 or more models. Fair. I like it. And the Mega Knobs. Crump in Time goes to a 5+ Feel the Pain, like it always should have been.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Now, where they did get done dirty, in my opinion, is they got a 50% points increase. I think it's a lot.
It was a significant
I think
amount.
probably too much.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't
With
appreciate
losing
it.
the 5-up Fiona Pin and then also getting hit with the increases that they got hit with.
Right? Like, what the heck, man?
It feels pretty bad,
Yeah.
but also, you got to pay for your sins.
I know. It was too much. I agree.
But, I mean, it's not even our sins. It's like GW made these things.
I know.
So they got to fix their mistakes, and this is how they do that. They're just, I guess this is their way of addressing, like, we know we made a mistake, and we know that this is a problem, so here we go.
Yeah, exactly. They might have overcorrected a little bit. Yeah. Overall, I think Orc's still going to be a very solid position. I'm excited to try them out in the new packs. We're running out of time here.
Yeah, we're like...
Space Marines. Games Workshop doesn't like your Iron Storm. They really hurt them. Both of their abilities that were auras are now pick 1.
Yep.
Their stratagem costs increased. Desolation, the rest are the same. And they also went after all your valuable vehicles, right?
Yeah,
so
like the Reapers and the Lancers and
all
that stuff.
Your
all got
Redeemer, all
got up in points.
Which is, I think, fair, because I hate that playstyle personally. Like, I'd love people to play their tanks, but GW needs to design one that's not, like, just abusive skew.
Yeah.
Space Wolves, hey! Sagas are a little bit better. You get to pick one at the start of the game that's just applied, and then the rest complete at the end of each player's turn. So, I don't know, we'll have to get Mel on the channel trying them out. We'll have to drag her away, kicking and screaming from the White Scars detachment. But maybe.
Yeah, if you're going to play a bespoke Space Marine chapter, you got to play the bespoke Space Marine.
Oh, wow.
If you're going to play Space Wolves, you got to play Space Wolves. Just like when you play Templars, you got to play Templars. Those are the actual names of the detachments.
Templars?
Yeah, Templars.
We do get a lot of flack for playing Gladius. That's true.
It's just better. Most of the time.
That one actually is better.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's why you can be on your high horse.
Saga of the Bear.
The Bear. Now the Thousand Suns who we're doing, no Tau changes.
None.
There are points changes, which is fair because they were very expensive. And then Thousand Suns got hit very, very hard.
Yes, they did.
I think, these are all good for the game, the health of the game. I think that the Thousand Suns is a little weird because it's a low play rate army, and the people who do play them are very high skilled players.
Yep.
So I think it's a little skewed in terms of data. Having said that, I agree conceptually with all of these, as much as it's going to suck.
I think the problem with the army, just when you look at it from like the outside in, is there's so much jank going on.
Yeah.
Like if you don't play the army, you don't know really what's going on, and that's kind of the thing that they tried to address.
Exactly.
Is to limit the amount of jank and the amount of feel bads that the opponent has, because they just don't understand the army. Because even you as the player, there's so much going on with the army. It's hard to play. It's hard to play against. So they're trying to mitigate the amount of
Yeah.
Probably mental capacity it takes to play the game.
Oh, so much, and it's easy gotchas and stuff like that. It's just brutal. You know, like, to quote Melody, I've never played a game against Thousand Suns and felt okay about what happened. So briefly, the changes are your rituals are 1 per psyker. Can't just do them all in one.
Yep.
Brutal. Twist of Fate, take away saves, is only in your shooting phase, so you can't wait for your opponent to do it. And then it only gives +2 AP to your ranged attacks. Brutal.
Yep.
Temporal Surge, no triple move, only double
Thankfully.
move. Fair. Doombolt now respects Lone Operative. Totally fair. And then if we can scroll down a bit more, we have, with Exalted Sorcerer, the movement phase ability to slow is now just tied to the shooting. So you can't do movement phase and then immediately move away with Temporal Surge. Instead, you actually have to hit with your Flamer, and then it has the same, it has modified effects, kind of like Night Spinner. So -2 move and -2 to charge. So basically hits all across the board. They saw minor reductions in units that weren't seeing play, such as the Scarab Occult Terminators, which So I'm a little concerned for Thousand Suns right now.
They're a very elite army.
Yeah.
And they just got worse as the thing that they did.
Right?
With not much adjustment to the points.
I like that GW was like, we don't want to make them cheaper because they should be elite. I agree with that. But I think you didn't really give them an exchange.
Right. The rules don't really reflect the way that they want them to play, in my opinion.
But we'll see. We'll get them on the table soon and see how they play. Tyranids, which is a good segue into today's matchup, which we're playing in just 12 minutes. Tyranids were in a bad spot.
Yeah, they're rough.
They also got hurt by the new missions, right?
Yeah.
OC0 units can't do actions.
Yep. So no more Biovores shooting into the backfield and doing some fixed secondaries or like Rippers or whatever the case.
Rippers, right? Yeah. But they got lots of little changes here. Synapse range, you get +1 strength in melee.
Yes.
That's cool.
That's a really cool change.
Shadow in the Warp, if you're within 6 inches of Synapse, you're -1 leadership for enemy units. Fantastic. Yep. Make them more scary, right? Crusher Stampede got some love. Whether it's enough to take it, I'm not sure. You have +2 OC on a Tyranid monster unit while you're at starting strength. I wish they had not taken starting strength.
Yeah. I think if they had done if you're below starting strength, I would have appreciated that more.
Yeah.
Because your monsters will never be at full health.
Why don't you just give them +2 OC? Is that so crazy?
Yeah, like if they wanted a stipulation, I mean, is like if they wanted to give a stipulation to it, like you don't get it when you're at full health, but as you get hurt, you get the thing. Yeah. That's much better than you get it only at full health because you'll just get shot one time.
So brutal.
And lose the ability.
Right?
Which sucks.
So your Carnifex herds, you can get damaged because that is a squad. They're only squads of 2, 3 with Old One Eye. Yeah. So I like the thought, but I think it was a little bit of a miss. And then Untrammeled Ferocity, I forget what they changed about this. Oh, I think you can go over the terrain now in the same way that Knights can, but you can get Battle Shock.
You get the Battle Shock,
All right, whatever. And then Hive Tyrants, now Onslaught grants Assault and Lethal hits, which is awesome, because nobody was taking this bub. So this is Foot Tyrant. You got Synapse on a bunch of new units.
Yep. And then the Vanguard Invader got slapped onto the Moloch, Raveners, Trigon, and I think that was it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Which is exciting. We're going to try Trigon today.
Yep.
Not because we think it's amazing, but because, look, we got new rules.
He's cool, yeah.
It's awesome.
And then the Exocrine. What changed the Exocrine?
Oh, strength 8 to 9.
8 to 9.
Which is important because you don't want it to be a works against everything kind of gun, but this means it actually works against many transports now, which, cool, fair. Tranfex. Damage increase.
So much damage.
Love it.
D6 plus 6. It used to be 2d6.
Right.
Now it is D6 plus 6.
Like when you have a strength 18 AP4 gun,
it's got to do damage. Yeah, it's got to do damage.
Yeah. So that's a great change. And then of course some points adjustments as well. Things that got nerfed actually went down in points. Yep. You'll never see a Biovore again. And the World Eaters. Sorry, Lindsay. Although you did great with them last time. You did actual damage.
Actually do damage.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe Lindsay.
I'll try it.
Yeah,
Bring
exactly.
Biovore's back.
Yeah. Making Biovore a thing.
Yes.
And then World Leaders, these are the same as before, I believe. So that is the balanced data slate. We tried to kind of cover points where applicable as we go through it. Again, you're going to have to dig through it yourself. There's a ton of stuff. I'm sure we missed a couple things, but that is the high level. I think what we're going to do now, because we've got a stream very, very soon, we're all set up. This is going to go ahead and redirect and pass you all through to the stream. So hang out, chat. If you have any carryover super chats, we'll take them in the next stream. And we'd love to continue the discussion as we're going through everything today.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to be able to showcase some of the changes here during the game. So definitely stick around, hang out for the game because it's gonna be a lot of fun. There's a lot to unpack with this.
So much. Exciting times, yeah?
Yeah. So we do have quite a few super chats that there's just questions about it that we can answer during the game, and I've already let them know.
Perfect.
I do want to thank 95 Ginger Rage and Just Jupiter for gifting memberships.
Oh,
thank you
so much.
Appreciate it.
I
love it.
Yeah, there's just a general excitement about.
It's exciting, right?
Yeah.
We've been like waiting for this, and it's like, okay, now we can really start.
Yeah, it's like what you said. It feels like a 10.5 more than it feels like a balanced data slate.
Yeah.
And it feels good.
Exciting times. Well, folks, again, the link is going to redirect you directly to the stream, which we're going to go live in just a few minutes. So sit back, maybe grab a drink, and hang out with us in the rest of this exciting day of Warhammer. That's going to do it for us. We'll catch you very soon on Tabletop.
Bye.